So I drew a little tree so I can illustrate my darkening technique that I was trying to explain, and I hope this helps. If not, then I'm sorry. I'm going to use Van Dyke Brown because, oh no, I'm not going to use Van Dyke Brown. This is Sepia Brown because that's the brown that I have. So basically, I want to do, I want to mix my sepia with a little bit of yellow that's already in there. Put a little yellow ochre. Gonna get it nice and moist. And as you can see, my palette is nice and gooey. I mean, they're still solid, but they're moist enough to where if I put my wet brush in there, I'm gonna pick up a lot of pigment. Anyhow, so add a little bit of yellow on there. Now I've got my brush really wet. It's loaded up with water, loaded up with pigment, and that's my mixture right there. And so now I'm going to paint my first layer, but I'm going to paint in smaller sections rather than doing large sections. So I think for my first layer, I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to do one of these branches up here, probably this one, and I'm going to start slow. So as you can see, just a small section. And you can see right here, I left all that pigment is like sitting on that side. So that's like a shadowy area where there's more pigment. I could still brush it around, but the goal is to try to do it all in one stroke. And now it's still wet, but I'm gonna go over here to my palette. And I'm gonna get some ultramarine. I'm gonna mix it over here a little bit. And I'm gonna just add a little bit of that to down at the bottom here. I didn't load it with too much, just a little. So what I kind of want to do is mix it in with that brown. So I'm gonna add a little more brown to it. And then get some more ultramarine and dab that on top. And I'm letting the water just kind of do its job. Let it kind of spread a little bit. Get some more ultramarine here and dab it down at the bottom over here because this is where I think the light is casting down on this tree, so the shadow is going to be at the bottom. I'm going to grab a little more brown. I'm going to just add it there. So by working on smaller sections, you can get that swirling water mixing effect that watercolors does. And you don't have to worry about rushing too much to cover a lot of area when you're trying to mix. Do this mixing technique. So all I'm doing is dabbing here. I mean, you could play around with your brush strokes and do maybe like one a swoop and do that, but I think the dabbing looks really good with the trees, so that's why I'm doing the dabbing effect. And actually you can, if you want to create a little bit of light there, you can actually use your brush to soak up some of that some of that, let's see if I can focus on it. Soak up some of that color. There we go. Do that over here on this side. So once you let this dry, it's going to look really cool. Because like right now, it probably looks really weird. You're probably not going to be super happy with that. But when it dries, it looks really cool. So from there, I'm just going to keep working on this tree. I'll get some of my mixture that I had before, load my brush up again, and then I'm going to work down here. And then just cover. The slower you go, the more coverage you're going to have. And it's okay if you have a little bit of that dry brush. You can always go back. And now I'm going to get a little bit of cerulean blue, my favorite blue. And I'm going to just try to get a little bit more of that pigment without it being too watery. And I'm going to try to put some cerulean and mix it in there before this first layer dries too much. See, what that's doing is it's making that brown a little extra green, and it's giving it just kind of like this really cool realistic wood effect. All right, I'm going to pause. We're going to let it dry, and we're going to see what it looks like. Okay, so I blasted it with the hair dryer so you can see what that looks like. That's how it looks like dry. So as you can see, by adding a little bit of that blue, it darkened the color a little bit more. It also helped that I had a little bit more of a gooey, creamier palette, because that meant my brush was able to pick up more pigment that way. Okay, I'm going to finish this tree so you can see what it looks like with this technique.